Today, we're going to take this track and turn it to this. We're going to mix this track as if the year is 1992. Hey, I'm Yoad. Welcome to my studio. So I'm after a sound that was produced using early digital gear, as well as analog Project Studio mixing desks like Soundcraft, Amek Scorpion, early Mackies, so no fancy SSLs or Neves. We're just going to try to recreate the sound with the gear that was available back in 92. Let's see how it goes. The first thing I'm going to do is convert everything to 16-bit. This will replicate the sound that was available when recording to ADATs, using DAT machines, using Akai samplers, MPCs, and we're going to do that across all the tracks. So I'm going to take the kick and run an L1. Now, I'm not going to use the limiter on the L1. I'm not going to use any dithering. I'm just going to truncate it down to 16-bit. That's all I want to do in that section, but I also want to lower the level by 10 dB. So we're going to lose more bits. We're going to lose resolution, introducing more quantization noise. And that is done intentionally in this case. I'm going to save this as the default preset. So now, if I run it across all the tracks, this is the preset that is going to load across all the tracks in the session. And now I'm going to load another instance of the same plugin, now boosting it by 10 dB. So we're back to the start position, and again reducing the resolution to 16-bit. I'm going to save that as the default preset again and run it across all the tracks. So let's do a quick before and after just on that. That's the original. And now with both L1s. Just by doing that, I'm already getting the 90s vibe. So that's going to be our starting point. And from here, I'm going to be very careful not to use any high quality processors. I'm going to start with the bass. And now I have to think really carefully about what to use. I'm not going to use any compression because Soundcraft, Scorpions, Mackies didn't have any dynamic section on them. So I'm going to try to restrain myself and not get tempted to use compression on every track, maybe one or two through the entire session. But I don't think that this bass needs it anyway. Let's go with the Harrison channel. I'm going to bypass the dynamic section. I am going to use the drive. And I'm going to add some lows. Now, when I add low in shelf mode, which means I'm starting at 250 and boosting all the way down, I get the size of the bass as opposed to using bell mode, which just boosts around that frequency range. So that adds the subs, maybe a bit too much. I'm going to cut below 30. And I want to add something in the mids as well. So the bass is much more prominent already, and it's now on par with the kick. Because before then, the kick was a little bit too dominant. That brings the bass up a bit. Now we want to look at the piano. And I'm probably gonna use the same processor. Not to say that the Harrison is not a high-end processor in any way. The desk is amazing and very high quality, but something about the EQ of the EQ reminds me the feel of Soundcraft, and not so much the Scorpion, but the Soundcraft mainly. And especially if I boost and maybe something on top. Yeah. Now every change I make is going to make whichever channel I'm working on louder, so we have to be mindful of that. If you like my videos, please subscribe to my channel. You'll get notifications about new videos where I share from my experience and knowledge. I kind of made it my mission to do that and share all this information with you. If you find it interesting and helpful, you can subscribe. And now the snare sounds under. So here I'm going to boost the snare, and I have a preset I created which does that. So I'm going to do that and bring the fader up. While I'm here, I can see that it could be panned to the right a little bit. Maybe a bit much. So I'm gonna lower it and decrease the depth. And now the 909 hat wants to come up. I think the sound is okay, maybe it's just the level. Again, I'm not too keen about the hi-hat being panned because it's part of the sort of foundation of the beat. Definitely wants to come up. We might as well use the Harrison and see if we can bring the input up, driving the gain into the drive. Maybe it needs a bit of, high mid. And a bit of top, why not? Okay, the next thing I'm hearing is that it's a bit static. And it's a bit centered, so I want the piano to be the center of attention in this part. So I'm actually going to use the tremolo in order to do a bit of auto pan thing on this part. And again, I need to compensate for the level loss. Too much? Just a bit. Now, since I want to keep everything in order, I'm going to push the tremolo back one, so the Harrison is on insert 3. Nice. I think I may introduce some movement here.
Follow the directions here to South Suburban Harvey, where this arcade has been transformed into a rave. It's now 2 a.m. and this party has...
And we can copy this across. Maybe it's too much, something like that. And I can bring the level back down because we added a lot of mid-range. What else have we got here? This is really cool. Bit of early Madonna vibe. Let's add some lows to that so it's a little bit more thick. something like that. And just so it's not too dull, I'm gonna brighten it a little bit. Let's look at the kick. I want to hollow it up just a little bit in this range. A bit boxy. Just a tiny bit, because that's where all the energy lies. And I can add very carefully some lows. I'm gonna reduce the drive a little bit. Piano is slightly loud. This one is very mono. In fact, it's totally mono, and I need to do something about that. So let's try a bit of Juno chorus, which would have been available because the way I have my Juno set up is I modded it so I can use the chorus feeding from an external input. So that was definitely available back then. Nice, I like the width that adds. I'm going to not get tempted and add loads of effects. The rough mix we had was already very close to what the producer wanted to hear, so I'm going to stick with that and not add too much. That's fine. I like this. I think that this could benefit from the autopan as well. Let's grab it across and this could easily be louder. Bass is a tiny bit too loud. Sometimes people forget that mixing is about balance. Instead of grabbing another plugin and another plugin and processing and all that, maybe I can use the faders to get to where I want to be. So I'm hearing that the bass is too loud. I can hollow it or I can compress it and stuff, but maybe it's just a matter of bringing the fader down a tiny bit. I'm having too much 16 action here. So I think that these two are fighting for our attention. I'll try to pan. I know I'm using auto pan on both, but I'm going to try to tilt the pan of one against the other. Let's see how that works. Makes more room for the piano, for sure. Piano needs a little bit more top. And here we have too much of that. Okay, let's listen to some other parts of the song. See where we are. So here we have an interesting panning thing already printed into the track. So I'm gonna leave it as is. Now here, I think I need a little bit more reverb. So let's use Valhalla with kind of an 80s setup. Let's do something like that. Not too many early reflections. That should be fine.
like it, but they really can't say anything because they've never been to one.
Kind of the PCM 70 vibe, maybe.
In farm fields and abandoned warehouses, after-hours bars, clubs, anywhere.
The vocals are now all very under, so I'm just gonna bring them up.
South suburban Harvey, where this arcade has been transformed into a rave.
Because the sound is absolutely fine.
This party has only just begun.
Piano is occupying a lot of space. We need to take something down, even though that's kind of an M1 sound. So maybe we'll go with that and just make it quieter. Yeah, because now I can hear the pads more underneath, like this one. So the focus of the piano has shifted an octave or two higher, so I'm boosting the higher harmonics,
Raves are happening in cities and small towns.
making space for the pads.
After-hours bars or clubs, anywhere that's far.
Let's look at the effects. I'm going to boost. It's not the level, it's just the waveform. So these should all come up because effectively we made everything else louder. But I still have plenty of headroom. Okay, let's look at the other basses. That one is a little bit muffled. We need to help it a little bit here.
Phenomenon which looks set to stay.
This one wants to be a little bit more dramatic.
When you stay out on
Can add some lows.
Like it, but they really can't say anything because
When I say lows, in this case, I'm talking about low mids
What about your parents when you stay out?
and
they
downwards.
don't like it, but they really can't say anything because
So I'm not after any subs. They will
know about it,
get boosted as well as the low mid.
know about it.
Raves are happening
Here, I'm getting too much of that
in farm fields and abandoned
bite
after-hours bars.
impact and not enough lows.
Far from adult supervision.
Let's look at this
Anywhere that's far
break peak. This needs to be a lot more punchy. So here I'm going to use the compressor because it could have been an external compressor, and I'm going to use slow attack. And I'm going to emphasize the lows on the sidechain, on the detector. So it is going to compress the kick more than anything else. We're gonna add some bite and some body. Now, since the main kick is not playing, we want to maintain the lows in this section. So let's see the transition. Maybe even more.
are happening in cities and small towns. In farm fields and abandoned warehouses. After-hours
I can use the high band
adult supervision.
It's a
to boost more mid.
which looks set to stay.
Bunch of people getting together having a good time.
And let's compensate for the hamming to make it central. Many viewers ask me to review their mixes and give them mix advice. I found a way which is manageable where I can give you mix advice from my experience and tell you what I would do if I was sitting in front of your mix right now. All the details below. Now the string here is doing the crescendo. I think it could have a little bit more reverb. And maybe it needs some lows for the drama. Now here I'm going to use bell mode because I don't want it to go all the way down. Maybe too loud. Now that very distinct early 90s sample can be more present. At this moment the piano sounds a little bit thin, so I'm just going to automate the lows in this section. Cool, I think we're ready for some mastering. So for this, I'm going to use very minimal mastering and try to replicate early digital mastering. So I'm going to use the Waves Q10 for EQ. Could be Q4, I don't need 10 bands. And let's see how that sounds. So it has that very basic digital sound. Probably don't need anything more than that. And while we're here, we can try the C1 as a master bus compressor, because early digital compressors like Daniel Weiss and Sonic Solutions would sound quite similar to that. And I'm gonna place the compressor before the EQ. Yeah, that's much better. And then let's use L1 as the limiter. I can hear that the kick and the bass are foking up a little bit too much, so I can bring both of them down very carefully. This is the foundation of the track. And that vocal sample is a tiny bit loud. Piano can come up at there. Something like that. I'm gonna keep tweaking that for a while.
London police have slammed the behaviour of more than 300 people who breached lockdown restrictions by attending an illegal rave.
Raves are almost synonymous with drugs. Parents, take note, if your teens are ravers, they may be dancing with danger.
It's a 90s phenomenon which looks set to stay.
A bunch of people getting together, having a good time.
Caroline, what about your parents when you stay out all night at a rave?
They don't like it, but they really can't say anything because they've never been to one to know about it.
Raves are happening in cities and small towns, in farm fields and abandoned warehouses, after-hours bars, clubs, anywhere that's far from adult supervision.
So what happens next? An illegal rave renaissance.
Fox News followed the directions here to South Suburban Harvey, where this arcade has been transformed into a rave. It's now 2 a.m. and this party has only just begun.
I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you know what to do, and I will see you on the next one.